the blood of Jesus.
Welcome to A Biblical Worldview. I'm your girl, Tanya Michelle, and thank you so much for stopping by my channel. Don't forget to follow me on all my socials that are listed in the description box. Leave a like underneath the video so that I can get into the algorithm. Leave some comments on the video. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and share the video with your friends. Also, if you'd like to support my efforts here at A Biblical Worldview, there are some links underneath the video and description box where you can donate. Any contribution you make will be greatly appreciated and will go back into my being able to continue to bring you content from a biblical perspective. So let's get into it. Well, we're going to continue our journey in the book of Genesis, and now we have landed in Genesis chapter 42. We are chugging right along. We are getting through this book of Genesis. There are only 50 chapters in the book of Genesis, and if you follow me on my Rumble channel, you can see every single chapter and verse on my Rumble channel. I started this way back, I think in 2024. And every video from Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 all the way now to Genesis chapter 42 verse 1, they are on my Rumble channel. So if you want to see a particular chapter and verse, I hope you will go back and look up that video. They are all there, uploaded on my Rumble channel. My YouTube channel, not quite so much, because, I just kind of started the YouTube channel, so it's going to take some time before I get as much content on there as I have on Rumble. But they are uploaded on my Rumble channel if you'd like to go back and watch those. So we are in Genesis chapter 42, and we will read from the Legacy Standard Bible, Genesis 42 verses 1 through 5, and just share a few thoughts about what the Lord is teaching us through these verses. So Genesis 42, 1 through 5, as Joseph's family is going to Egypt, these verses read like this. Now Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt. And Jacob said to his sons, "Why are you staring at one another?" Then he said, "Behold, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy some for us from there so that we may live and not die." So 10 brothers of Joseph went down to buy grain from Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, lest any harm befall him. So the sons of Israel came to buy grain among those who were coming, and a famine was in the land of Canaan also. Well, by this point, we can safely assume that all of Jacob's sons are adults. And likely most of them, maybe not Benjamin, but all the rest of them likely have wives and children of their own. However, it appears to me that they all possibly live in the same community, maybe in the very close proximity to each other. And so we know that this famine, remember, if you saw my last video, I talked about how this famine affected all of the nations that surrounded the nation of Egypt. So a huge portion of the world is being affected by this famine, and apparently it is affecting them also in Canaan, because verse 1 says that Jacob saw that there was grain in Egypt. So he knew where he could go and get some food. So he says to the sons, why are you staring at one another? The famine, in my mind, I'm hearing him say, the famine has hit, okay? And we know that there's food in Egypt. What are you waiting for? Get on over there and buy us some food so that we don't starve to death. Get to stepping. Jacob knew that there was no need for them to be standing around looking at each other and doing nothing. And that is foolishness for us as well. When we have a need, when there is a need in our lives, we can't just stand around and do nothing. We can't just look at each other as if stares will produce what we need. And yes, we are to pray and trust God for the results. I am not saying that we don't need to do that. But I do believe that God gives us resources in order for us to put the work in so that when he does move on our behalf, we're more appreciative. We are grateful to him after the struggle. We're grateful to him after we've had to invest a little in what we need. And then when he blesses us, it's even more sweet to us. So, in case the sons didn't know, Jacob let them know in verse 2. He says, I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. So go down there and buy some for us from there so that we may live and not die. In other words, Jacob knew that there was food to be had, so somebody needed to get over there and get some of it. And he knew that if they didn't get over there sooner rather than later, that somebody was going to die of starvation. So 10 of Joseph's brothers, with the exception of Benjamin, packed up and headed towards Egypt. Now, it's likely that these sons had servants, or at least they had access to their father's servants, but they did not send the servants. They went to Egypt themselves, and they took their own money and they pled their own case for needing food for their families. So, this is really good. This is growth. They didn't think that they were too good to make the trip. They didn't think they were too good to go to Pharaoh to ask for help. They exemplified masculine leadership in the home by going out to do the difficult thing that the family needed. And this is the kind of leadership that God has designed for the home. These men went and found what needed to be found to provide for their families. And as I said, all of them, we can safely assume they're adults at this point, and we can safely assume that each one of them has a wife and has children. Joseph was the second youngest of all of the brothers, and he has a wife and 2 sons, so it's safe to assume that all the rest of the brothers have them too. And so they are taking that masculine leadership and they're doing what the man, what the husband, what the father, what the head of the household is supposed to do. But when the brothers went to Egypt, guess who didn't go? Benjamin. Jacob didn't send Benjamin because he didn't want anything to happen to the last of Rachel's sons. And I guess I can understand in a way, but then there is that whole favoritism thing. And, I know God's sovereign. God is sovereign over this entire story. And so I need to keep my feelings out of it. But I tell you what, I do not like it when we see the partiality. I didn't like it when Isaac and Rebekah chose their favorites. Isaac was partial to Esau and Rebekah was partial to Jacob. I just didn't like that. I just didn't like it. And now Jacob has 2 sons by his favorite wife, and he's doing the same thing that his parents did. And, that's just my flesh. So I just don't like it. But God had a purpose in it. And so we will see God's purpose as we continue our journey through Genesis chapter 42. Well, that's my time. Thank you so much for stopping by Biblical Worldview. Don't forget to follow, like, and comment on the video. And I will see you next time.